8. Bismottaranirghosa. At that time, Sudana the youth reflected accordingly on the Bodhisattva's right teaching and reflected accordingly on the Bodhisattva's purification of his practice. He then resolved to increase the power of his Bodhisattva merit, resolved to clearly see all Buddhas, resolved to bring forth the enlightenment of all Buddhas, resolved to increase his practice of the great vows, resolved to everywhere perceive all dharmas of the 10 directions, resolved to illuminate the true nature of all dharmas, resolved to demolish all obstacles, resolved to contemplate the dharma realm without obscurations, resolved to become adorned with the jewel of pure intention, and resolved to vanquish all the many kinds of maras. He then gradually traveled along until he reached the country of Nalayus, where he searched around everywhere for Bismottaranirghosa. He then saw a great forest adorned by the presence of an asamkhya of trees. In particular, there were many different kinds of leafy trees with luxuriant foliage that spread out widely, many different kinds of flowering trees with blossoms that were fresh and gloriously beautiful, many different kinds of fruit trees with fruits that were continuously ripe, many different kinds of jeweled trees that rained down fruits made of mani jewels, immense sandalwood incense trees that were everywhere growing in rows, all kinds of agaru incense trees that always emanated fine fragrances, mind-pleasing incense trees graced by their marvelous fragrance, patali trees that surrounded the area on all 4 sides, nyagroda trees whose trunks were tall and straight, jambu trees that always rained down sweet fruits, and utpala blossoms and padma blossoms that adorned the ponds. Sudana the youth then saw that rishi beneath a sandalwood tree, sitting on a grass mat, leading a group of myriad disciples, some of whom wore deerskins, some of whom wore clothing made of tree bark, and some of whom wore robes made of woven grasses. Wearing headbands and having hair that hung down, they completely surrounded that rishi. Having seen him, Sudana went up to him to pay his respects, made full reverential prostrations, and spoke in this way. I have now succeeded in meeting a true good spiritual guide. The good spiritual guide is the gateway to all knowledge, for he enables me to enter the true path. The good spiritual guide is the vehicle leading to all knowledge, for he enables me to reach the ground of the Tathagata. The good spiritual guide is the ship that sails toward all knowledge, for he enables me to arrive at the jeweled isle of wisdom. The good spiritual guide is the torch that lights the way to all knowledge, for he enables me to produce the light of the 10 powers. The good spiritual guide is the path that leads to all knowledge, for he enables me to enter the city of nirvana. The good spiritual guide is the lamp that illuminates the way to all knowledge, for he enables me to recognize the safe and dangerous paths. The good spiritual guide is the bridge that leads to all knowledge, for he enables me to cross over dangerous and evil places. The good spiritual guide is the parasol on the way to all knowledge, for he enables me to bring forth the coolness of the great kindness. The good spiritual guide is the eye that sees the way to all knowledge, for he enables me to see the gateway of the nature of dharmas. And the good spiritual guide is the tide that transports me to all knowledge, for he enables me to become completely filled with the waters of the great compassion. Having spoken in this way, he got up, circumambulated him countless times, stood before him with palms pressed together, and addressed him, saying, O Arya, I am one who has already resolved to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Still, I do not yet know how the Bodhisattva should train in the Bodhisattva practices and cultivate the Bodhisattva path. I have heard that the Arya is well able to offer guidance and instruction. I pray then that he will speak on these matters for my sake." Bismottaranirghosa then turned to look at his congregation of disciples and spoke in this way: "Son of good family, this youth is one who has already resolved to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Sons of good family, this youth is one who everywhere bestows fearlessness on all beings. This youth is one who everywhere promotes the benefit of all beings. This youth is one who always contemplates the ocean of all Buddha's wisdom. This youth is one who wishes to drink all of the Dharma rains of the elixir of immortality. This youth is one who wishes to fathom the entire vast ocean of Dharma. This youth is one who wishes to cause beings to abide in the ocean of wisdom. This youth is one who wishes to everywhere send forth vast clouds of compassion. This youth is one who wishes to everywhere rain down the vast rain of Dharma. This youth is one who wishes to use the moon of wisdom to illuminate the entire world. This youth is one who wishes to extinguish the searing heat of the world's afflictions. And this youth is one who wishes to cause the growth of all sentient beings' roots of goodness." Having heard these words, everyone in that congregation of rishis took up many different kinds of supremely marvelous and fragrant flowers and scattered them over Sudana. They then prostrated their bodies before him in reverence, circumambulated him respectfully, and spoke in this way: "Now this youth is certainly bound to rescue all beings, is certainly bound to extinguish all the sufferings of the hells, is certainly bound to forever cut off descent into the path of animal rebirth, is certainly bound to turn away from the realms of King Yama, is certainly bound to close the gates to the abodes beset by the 8 difficulties, is certainly bound to dry up the ocean of cravings, and will certainly cause beings to forever do away with the mass of sufferings, is certainly bound to forever dispel the darkness of ignorance, is certainly bound to forever sever the bonds of cravings, will certainly surround the world with a great ring of mountains of merit, and will certainly reveal to the world a Mount Sumeru of immense jewels of wisdom, is certainly bound to bring forth the rising sun of pure wisdom, and is certainly bound to open and reveal the Dharma treasury of roots of goodness, and will certainly enable those in the world to clearly distinguish what is hazardous and what is easy." Bismottaranirghosa then told that group of rishis, "Son of the Buddha, if there is anyone who is able to resolve to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, he will certainly be bound to achieve complete success in the path to all knowledge. Because this son of good family is one who has already resolved to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, he is bound to purify the ground of meritorious qualities of all Buddhas." Bismottaranirghosa then spoke to Sudana the youth, saying, "Son of good family, I have acquired the bodhisattva liberation known as the banner of invincibility." Sudana then inquired, "O Arya, as for this banner of invincibility liberation, what is its sphere of experience like?" Bismottaranirghosa Rishi then extended his right hand, rubbed the crown of Sudana's head, and grasped Sudana's hand, at which point Sudana immediately saw himself go off and enter worlds of the 10 directions as numerous as the atoms in 10 Buddha kshetras, whereupon he arrived in the abodes of Buddhas as numerous as the atoms in 10 Buddha kshetras, in which he saw those Buddhas kshetras, their congregations, those Buddhas' major and secondary signs, and their many different kinds of adornments, this even as he also heard those Buddhas expounding on the Dharma in ways suited to whatever pleased the minds of the beings there. He completely understood every word and phrase they spoke, and absorbed and retained their teachings without mixing them up or confusing them. He gained the knowledge of those Buddhas' use of all different kinds of understanding to achieve the purification of their vows, also gained the knowledge of those Buddhas' use of purified vows to perfect the powers, also saw those Buddhas' manifestations of forms and appearances adapted to beings' mental dispositions, also saw those Buddhas' immense nets of light rays of many different colors that were perfectly fulfilled in their purity, also gained the knowledge of those Buddhas' unimpeded power arising from their great light of wisdom, and also saw himself there in the presence of those Buddhas, where he remained in some cases for 1 day and night, in other cases for 7 days and nights, or in other cases for a half-month, or a month, or a year, or 10 years, or 100 years, or 1,000 years, or a koti of years, or an ayuda of years, or a nayuda of years, or for half a kalpa, or for a whole kalpa, or for 100 kalpas, or 1,000 kalpas, or 100,000 kotis of kalpas, and so forth on up to his remaining in the presence of some Buddhas, even for kalpas as numerous as the atoms in an ineffable number of Buddha kshetras. Then, due to being illuminated by the wisdom light of the Bodhisattva's banner of invincibility liberation, Suddhana the youth acquired the light of the Vairocana treasure samadhi. Due to being illuminated by the light of the samadhi of the inexhaustible knowledge liberation, he acquired the light of the universal integration of all regions dharani. Due to being illuminated by the light of the Vajra wheel dharani gateway, he acquired the light of the mind of ultimately pure wisdom samadhi. Due to being illuminated by the light of the Prajna Paramita of the Universal Gateway Adornment Treasury, he acquired the light of the Buddha's Space Treasury Sphere Samadhi. And due to being illuminated by the light of the Dharma Wheel of all Buddhas Samadhi, he acquired the light of the endless knowledge of the 3 periods of time Samadhi. Bismottaranirghosa Rishi then released Suddhana's hand, whereupon Suddhana immediately saw himself return to his original place. Then that Rishi spoke to Suddhana, saying, "Son of good family, do you now recall this?" Suddhana replied, "Yes, I do. This occurred due to the powers of the Arya, the good spiritual guide." The Rishi then said, "Son of good family, I know only this Bodhisattva's banner of invincibility liberation. As for the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, who have perfected all the especially excellent samadhis, who have achieved sovereign mastery over all times, who in but a single mind moment bring forth the measureless wisdom of all Buddhas, who are adorned with the Buddha's lamp of wisdom with which they everywhere illuminate the world, who in but a single mind moment everywhere enter the spheres of experience of all 3 periods of time, who divide their bodies and travel everywhere throughout the lands of the 10 directions, whose wisdom bodies everywhere enter the entire Dharma realm, who adapt to the minds of beings and everywhere appear directly before them, who contemplate the faculties and actions of beings and then benefit them accordingly, and who emanate pure light, which is so very pleasing to behold. How could I know of or be able to speak about their meritorious qualities and practices, their especially excellent vows, their adornment of the kshetras, the spheres of cognition related to their wisdom, the range of actions in their samadhis, the transformations produced by their spiritual superknowledges, their easeful mastery of the liberations, the differences in their physical characteristics, the purity of their voices, or the light of their wisdom? Son of good family, south of here, there is a village known as Ishana in which there is a Brahmin known as Jayashmayatana, or Supreme Heat. You should go there, pay your respects, and ask, how should the Bodhisattva train in the Bodhisattva practices, and how should he cultivate the Bodhisattva path? Sudana the youth was then filled with joy and exultation, whereupon he bowed down in reverence at his feet, circumambulated him countless times as he continued to gaze up at him in attentive admiration. He then respectfully withdrew and traveled southward.